So hi folks, Alex Forrest vlogging to you on a chilly but very sunny Saturday afternoon here in Warsaw, Poland. I'm just next to the great big golden palace of shopping pleasures, YT'ers it's called. It's been a fun afternoon. I've actually just walked into the shopping centre to get myself an ashtray. I've taken up the dirty weed again, unfortunately, and so has everybody else in the office, and I'm buying them an ashtray. What I often find that these days is I make approaches as I'm going about my normal day-to-day, and that means, for example, I now sort of actually enjoy going and doing silly domestic shopping because it gives me an opportunity to say hello to the female population of the world. And I have just made one approach just now. Lovely, really dark-haired, raven black-haired girl with bright red lipstick who was floating around a clothes shop, and I had a fun and fizzy interaction with her and got a telephone number. So that has been fun. Now, the very first thing I want to say is I brought out a couple of short stories, and here's the book. It's Mysterious Duck Girl. It's an e-book. You can buy it on Amazon, or you can email me, alex@streetstories.co.uk, alex@streetstories.co.uk, and I will add you to a database for future releases and send you a copy of the book. Now, it's a plug, obviously, but it's not just a plug because it also ties in with the last Approach Basics vlog that I did. This is number 3, in which I talked about making a physical connection with the girl quite quickly. And that has huge advantages, actually, if you can strike some sort of a chemistry early on in the interaction. So those two stories are two of the sort of the fizziest, most sort of sexually sort of charged interactions that I've had with the girl, with two girls, one of whom I ended up making love, sweet love to, the other one whom I dated for a while. So check out Mysterious Duck Girl. So today's vlog is about the sort of off the beaten track type approaches, not just talking to girls in the street, but talking to girls in a wide variety of different areas. Now, guys often struggle with this. I guess they've been to a boot camp or got some coaching or watched some vlogs, and they've learnt how to run up to a girl in the middle of the street and stop her and get her telephone number, which is absolutely great. And then they think that, well, I now don't want to approach a girl in, you know, a shop, in a clothes shop, in a girl's clothes shop, in an underwear shop, God forbid, or a coffee shop. And those are classic situations where you kind of feel this spotlight effect. You know, it can feel a little bit sort of fearsome, although quite frankly it's no more sort of fearsome than approaching a girl in the street in broad daylight in a crowded place, quite frankly. There's also a bunch of other little sort of situations, but the key that I will run through in just a moment. The key here is that you just need to make a few tweaks on the basic model in those types of situations. So I'm just going to run through 5 or 6 common situations, not on the street, but in coffee shops, trains and platforms. I'm also going to dip into the evening at a bar, and I'm going to look at groups of girls as well, so stay tuned. So the very first one is one of my favourite places to approach girls, and that is in coffee shops. And it's funny how when you get a sort of a positive reference experience, it's going to last a hell of a long time. It's great, you know, really acknowledge positive steps you make in this area of your life. Because 5 years ago now, I was with Tom Torero at the top floor of Selfridges on my first ever sort of boot camp with another dude, and I was having great fun, and we were having a break and having a cup of coffee, but I didn't want a break, I just wanted to carry on. And I said, Tom, how do you approach a girl in a coffee shop? And there was a girl who was sat down reading a book, plugged up, and he said, it's no major difference, Alex. What you need to do is you need to call out the situation. So that is a key. Just simply call out the situation. Excuse me, do you mind if I just interrupt you for a moment? Okay? And, you know, bend down. Don't be standing over a girl as she's working. That's a bit intimidating. Because, you know, she's trapped in the street. The girl can just walk by. in a coffee shop, she's sort of like trapped, so she's a bit worried. So bend down, say that line, and notice that there's also a time constraint there, a time clock, if you like. You are actually saying to the girl that you're not going to stay more than a moment. Do you mind if you interrupt her for a moment? So that really is the best way. And once you've got over that, you've then paid the compliment, you've then made an observation, you'll find that coffee shops can be really rich hunting grounds for the dating dude, because you can get into a rather good conversation and make quite a strong connection that you might not be able to make if you were stopping a girl in the street who was busy getting from A to B. Now, clothes shops, it's quite an interesting one there. Guys often tease me, calling me a bit of a stalker, because I do not mind waiting for the right moment. If you see an attractive girl and she's like perusing some clothes in a corner rack and there are other people around her, if you just pile in and find space and say, "Oh, can I just say," she's going to feel a little bit off guard and there are going to be people around her. So the same principles apply. You just call out the situation. You just say, "Excuse me, I can see you're busy shopping, but can I just say something very quickly?" You needn't put in a time constraint because she's not sort of seated, but you do call out the situation that you are interrupting her while she's doing her shopping. Don't be, thinking it's too polite to do this and not you're not giving enough, what's the word, creating some sort of masculine chemistry. Obviously the way that you do it and the tone in which you say "excuse me" is the key here, not the words themselves. So when you do, when you're stopping anybody in a complete stranger in a public place, you do have to, show a little bit of respect and be polite. So but the point is, you can then, if she's then interested in having a conversation, then you can spike and, dial it up. Okay, so that is shops. I should just mention, in my first book, Too Late Mate, there's a chapter called Going Solo, and there's you know what I mean? I am the authority on approaching girls in shops, quite frankly, because there was one super hot girl. She actually worked in a cosmetic surgery. She was a receptionist there. The guy had done such a good job that he was so proud of his work that he actually gave her a job in the reception of the cosmetic surgeons in Knightsbridge in London. Anyway, she was a very attractive girl. I couldn't tell she'd had cosmetic surgery. It was good work, and she had long black hair, and she was one of these girls who was the phone was permanently glued to her ear. And as I say, I sort of just had to wait for the right moment to approach her, because I think I really wanted it to go well. And I followed her into a Zara at Knightsbridge, London. This is a few years ago now. And goodness knows, I must have got lost in there for 20-30 minutes. She disappeared. I thought she'd left. I said, "Oh God, this is stupid, let's give up." Anyway, eventually I tracked her down to the underwear section. And I actually waited. I opened her while she was at a clothes rack, and she'd actually ripped a blouse that afternoon and was just getting a replacement. And she was very relaxed about my approach. She obviously gets approached all the time. And she went to try on a new blouse, and I sort of stood there like a monkey. The interaction suddenly interrupted, and I didn't know what to do. I thought, should I go? And I ended up waiting at a spot where I knew that she would have to come on the way out of the shop. And there was a row of women's lingerie, knickers and bras next to me. And I stood there for a good 10 or 15 minutes. That was the time when I was determined to get over the spotlight effect of approaching girls in shops. When you got to go a little bit crazy when you start out, and eventually she came out. I got on the escalator with her. We went all the way to the exit, and I made this clumsy approach. I followed her on the escalator, so the two of us were riding the escalator together. And then outside, I said, I was so sort of like dry-mouthed and nervous. I said, do you want to go shopping sometime? It's the best line I could think of. But she rewarded my persistence. She said, do you want to grab a cup of tea and a cake? I know a nice cake shop round the corner. And I immediately hailed a taxi and then took charge and led. And we had a fantabulous instant date together. Chapter 11, I think it is, Going Solo, Too Late Mate. So, but the takeaway there was to wait for the right moment, and I think if you can wait till the girl leaves the shop, of course, but she might not be leaving the shop, so you've got to go in there and walk around and just get over the spotlight effect and just relax. Pretend that you're waiting for a friend, perhaps a girl friend who's doing some shopping, and even cook up an idea for a response. If sort of some security guard would come over and say, "Hey, you, what are you doing? You hitting on girls in my shop?" And you might say, "Well, don't know where she is, my girlfriend. I mean, God, you should never go shopping with girls. I've lost her." And then he'd laugh and he'll walk off. So give yourself a little story in your head if it works, if you're feeling this spotlight effect whilst you're actually in the shop. So that is shops. Now, what about trains and platforms and so on? Well, a London Underground can be, when it's rammed, is obviously not a great place. But at times, you'll be in a relatively empty train, you'll see an attractive girl sitting down or standing up, and you'll want to approach her. My advice here is particularly for a beginner, is to move as quickly as possible to just run the normal method. And I say that because the danger is you'll sit opposite her in a corner seat, and you'll be looking up at her and staring at her as you go from station to station, worried at what point she's going to get off the train, or whether you should go all the way to, blimmin' East Croydon on the tube. So best to move quite quickly, both for the logistical reasons, as you might get off the next stop, of course, but more importantly because I think you do tend to, I've experienced this, tend to create a little bit more paranoia about the situation if you take too long, if you're starting out. I think once you get more experienced, then I've occasionally waited for my moment, perhaps just got off the platform with her and then got on the next 2-3 minutes behind. One of my best mini relationships is actually with a girl whom I met here under this shopping centre in Warsaw Centralna, and it was a Sunday. She was on a platform, and we ended up having an instant date on the train in the buffet car, and had a beautiful train girl for those veterans who've been following this YouTube channel for some time. And it was no different from a normal street approach. Don't be, second guessing yourself about the fact that, well, she's about to get on the train, so there's no point anyway. And even if the train, you can see the train coming, you can make a thing of it and just say, "Oh, there's the train. Look, I'd love to take you out for a glass of wine sometime. Let's exchange numbers. Get out your phone and get the numbers." It can create some kind of romantic energy just getting on a train. So don't be too shy about trains or train platforms. All right, so now we come on to where you are perhaps approaching a group of girls. Then I think in that situation, pay a compliment to the girl. Don't be talking to the other girl that said there's two girls. And then at some point in the interaction, after a minute or so, not too long, just simply bring in the other girl into the interaction and say something like, let's say you've made an observation that you think she's sort of a retro-looking girl, and you can imagine her being a country and western sort of girl. You see her playing a banjo with a cowboy hat and some boots, and what's she doing here in the middle of Eastern Europe? And then you turn to the friend and say she's got a little bit of a retro thing going on, hasn't she? How long have you known her? Are you two good friends? And then you bring in the girl after you've got the conversation just going a little bit. The other girl will get it, unless she's a real total cockblock, and she'll let you have that conversation. But if it goes on too long, then she'll feel that she's been shunned, and then after you've left they'll talk, and I bet the girl that you've approached won't respond to your text because of the peer pressure of her friend who didn't like the way the guy handled himself. So that is the way to do it with groups of 2 girls, basically. I think I'll just sum up. I think you've had I think there are 5 situations there. If you can think of any more, please do message, comment below, or email me, even better, at alex@streetstories.co.uk. I will always answer emails. So as you can see, it's just the basic approach model that I talked about in vlog 1, but with these little tweaks to just adapt yourself to different situations. And if you're a guy who really wants to make changes in this area of your life and really, improve your social dating skills, it really does make sense to. It would be crazy to only have one skill which allowed you to approach a girl in the street who was walking along the street. It would be a bit like a tennis player only being able to hit a backhand, couldn't serve, couldn't do a forehand, couldn't volley, couldn't lob. What use would that sort of tennis player be? Well, if it's Roger Federer, he might be pretty good, and you might be pretty good in that situation. All power to you. But the point is, you want to be expanding your range of operations. Finally, there's just one situation I missed, and that's bars. I will talk in a future vlog about sort of day game and night game and the grey area in between, and how you can sort of capitalise on that grey area, even if you're a guy who's only learned daytime approach skills. Alright, well, I'm going to be doing a few more of these. There'll probably be about 12 of these approach basic vlogs. I've got a bunch of topics to cover. I've got the lines. I want to cover lines because I think the world is nonsense if they think there's not such thing as a chat-up line. There is such a thing as a line or a chat-up line. So I'm going to do a little bit of a glossary vlog. I'm going to deal with the older dude issues and how to deal with girls' frame tests during the course of street interactions. I'm also going to talk about story and conversation skills because I think that's quite an interesting area. I approached a girl yesterday, and I actually ended up telling her a story. And first time I've really done it properly, fully in the street, and it was very powerful. Created a very strong physical and emotional connection in her very quickly, actually. So I will talk about conversation skills and stories. Strap on those balls, guys. Your balls, not my balls. And get out there and approach the world. Speak to you soon.